Have you all been traveling far? I'm glad you made it. This is Clark coming to you live from Las Vegas, Nevada, The Herd. What we are is a radio show, hopefully to be a forum where people can call in and give us their solutions to America and how we get this great country of ours back on track, because we've been allowing our elected leaders to take us further and further off track for decades. And it's about time that we woke up and get this thing going again. Kind of like when we had a leader, the last one we had was really Reagan, and he lowered the tax rate significantly, created prosperity, 20-something million jobs. And that's the type of leadership we need. Somebody that gets good advice from qualified people, unlike Obama. And of course Obama, he's around to do the opposite of what needs to be done. He knows what he's doing, but the people that are pulling his strings know what they're doing, and their objective is to ruin the United States. He's on another world apology tour now, I guess. He went to Vietnam the other day. I wish it was back in the 60s. Maybe we'd get lucky and they'd get him, but you know, shouldn't say that about President of the United States, and I wouldn't if he was a legitimate president, but he's not. He's an anti-American. He's out to destroy America. And that's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. And I have a 7.5-year history to go by when I say that. So I have all the proof I need, and I'll take and debate anybody anytime. Anyways, my number here, if anyone's interested, is 702-493-5222. Give us a call and give us your suggestions for some solutions. I have one, and it's a big one, and I think Donald Trump's onto it too. We have to get rid of the influence, anyways, of these two political parties that we have. The Democrats, calling themselves the DNC, for Democrat National Committee, I guess, and the RNC, Republican National Committee. These are corrupt organizations, and we as the people of this country, remember us, we the people, this country was founded for us. We need to get rid of these political organizations. They're a cancer on our society, they're a cancer on our freedom, and we need to get rid of them, period. All they are is an envelope stuffed with special interest cash that gives part of it. After taking out their pound of flesh, they give what's left over to these elected officials who we the people put in office, and they get bought and paid for by this envelope with special interest money handed to them from whatever committee platform they ran on. That's the system. It's corrupt. It's just the epitome of corruption. It's as bad as it ever gets. And this country has gone that way. Most countries do. Just follow the money and you'll find out where the corruption is. And this country is becoming easier and easier and easier to find the corruption. There's a new book out I heard today about Hillary Clinton regarding the Clinton Crime Foundation and how they raise their money. And you know, you get hundreds of thousands of dollars from these organizations, banks, Wall Street, you name it. They hire Hillary Clinton to do a speech. And I think the average speech they determined was about 20 minutes long. Maybe that's with bathroom breaks. You know, she has those long bathroom breaks. But at any rate, 20-minute speech for hundreds of thousands of dollars. The accumulation of this book, anyways, had, I don't know, $22 million or something raised from this types of 20-minute speeches. I mean, it's obscene. What this is just payoffs. It's future investment, if you will, that Hillary Clinton might someday be in a position of power, and by virtue of being this Wall Street entity or whatever, you're buying protection. It's like the old mafia days back in the streets of New York and Boston or whatever, where these mobsters would come by your businesses and say, hey, we're around to collect, and you better pay up, give us an envelope every so often, and we'll protect you, make sure something bad doesn't happen to your business, because we're the power in this neighborhood, so you have to take care of us. We're like insurance. And boy, if you didn't pay up, you got a bomb thrown through your window, and maybe worse. And it doesn't take too long before word gets out, you better pay these people that come around with these white ties and black shirts and give them an envelope, because otherwise your days are numbered in business around here. This is the way the country used to run. It's just blatantly corrupt. And how does the police, when they're getting envelopes from the very people that collect the envelopes from you, the business, with a threat of destruction, they turn around and stuff these little envelopes and give it to the police department, the enforcement bureaus, if you will, to give themselves protection. So they're selling you protection, the business owner. They get your money, they turn around and give the enforcement people, who are supposed to be protecting the business owners, money, so that they don't protect you. They're protecting the people that are going after you, getting money from you. It's just follow the money. That's what corrupts everything in the world, corrupts everybody and everything. It's just really fundamental 101ism is what it is. It's common sense. We all know that happens, but what do we do about it? We keep electing the same people over and over and over again, and we have this misguided idea that this, like a Harry Reid, is giving the people in Nevada all this influence because he's the Senate Majority Leader at the time. We re-elected him in the last go-around. What did he do for us when they had that Obamacare thing? He slammed that down our throat with a nuclear option or whatever it was. He bought people the Cornhusker deal, the Louisiana Purchase. He bought and paid all these other senators that were giving him trouble, that weren't going to just sign on the dotted line to get this bill passed through Congress or the Senate, because that's what Obama wanted, his master. And this is what we end up with. We end up with a person that we elected thinking that that was going to be good for Nevada, and he did absolutely zero for Nevada. What Harry Reid does, he does for himself. And thank God he will not be majority leader anymore. And we have to make sure that Chucky Schumer doesn't get to follow steps and become a leader of that Senate, even though the Republican side of the aisle right now with Mitch McConnell is nothing to write home about either. But at least we'll take care of him in short order, like we took care of Boehner. Thank God we got rid of him, but look what we end up replacing him with, a Paul Wright. I'm not too sure he's much better than the crybaby, to tell you the truth. He sure did come in and rubber-stamped Obama's entire budget. That's not what we sent him to Washington to do. That's what we did not make him a leader of the Congress to do that either. So here we go, another politician that just says one thing and does another. The people of this country are sending a big sign to Washington, D.C., but you're working with people like Nancy Pelosi's and Harry Reid's and Paul Ryan's now and Mitch McConnell's. They just don't get the damn message. How dumb are these people? I know they're pretty dumb. Even Donald Trump saying we're run by dumb people, and it's the truth. They just don't get it. We've elected 2 cycles now where we've completely wiped out over 1,000 Democrats from the positions they held, and the people in power don't get it. The Mitch McConnells don't get it. I mean, what in the hell kind of, I don't know, boy, I don't know. I don't know, but anyways, we need to send them a big message, and that's going to be a boisterous, obnoxious, if you want to call him that, whatever the hell term you want to put on Trump. He is exactly what we need right now. He is a frigging plow, a bulldozer, and he's going to go to Washington, D.C., and he's going to get rid of these special interest groups, and he's going to get this country back to where something about this country makes sense again. We're going to start doing something that's good for America. How about that? Let's try that for the first time since Reagan. Let's try something that's America first. Let's try that and see if we don't get back on track like Reagan had us back on track. And the other issues that are coming down and have been controlling this country for a long time is the mainstream media is just absolutely despicable, distortionist. They're bought and paid for. I don't really get the connection too concrete in my mind why these mainstream media will not just do their job and report the news. Why do they have to distort everything and put a spin on it? Like the New York Slimes And this latest interview was a couple of women that worked for Donald Trump at one time in positions of power, were really in his organization, and a past girlfriend who did an interview with the New York Slimes under the promise what they were going to talk about had nothing to do with a hit piece on Donald Trump. Well, the New York Slimes, of course, they turned around right away and they worded, took out of context, moved a word here and there, and redeveloped the sentences, and it ended up being a hit piece. When these interviewees read these hit pieces, they said, "Wait a minute! No, we didn't say this. I didn't say this," and they went back before news shows and so forth and exposed the New York Slimes for what they were. Well, New York Slimes, I guess, has taken a big hit. The people that wrote the article were on TV the other day denying everything, of course, because they're just slime balls. But can't we see this? I know we have a problem with about 47%, is the number I like to use, of what we call low information people, who just do not have a single clue of what's really going on in this country. They don't have common sense. They have very little gray matter, if any, left between their ears, because it's all been brainwashed by the progressives with their intent of brainwashing them and removing all common sense from these people, because that increases their base, which keeps them in power. And that was their game plan. That's what they have been doing for decades now. Look at the schools and who is in charge of teaching our young people. And they're all liberals. They have this mindset that government is the answer to everything, and government's the problem. It's not the answer, it's the problem. We have to get less government. We have to teach people to take care of themselves. Remember the old adage, if you teach a man how to fish, you feed him for life. If you give him fish, you feed him for one day. Well, the liberals want your vote, so they feed you for one day to keep you at the trough, so you have to keep getting fish from them to survive. Or welfare checks, food stamps, maybe that lady in Michigan going to get her house one of these days. I don't think she's got it yet. A lot of people have what they call these Obama phones, whatever the deal was in that, I guess, so they could call these people up, the liberals, and remind them that a bus will be coming by to take them to the polls later. I mean, everything that these liberals do is distort the facts, control the people. We, the government, we are the Santa Claus that's going to take care of you for life. When is the 47% going to look at the results and find out you're not getting taken care of at all? You're going lower and lower and lower on the scheme of things, and the rich get richer and richer, but now the government is going after them in such a way that the jobs and stuff that they used to create, they're getting smart and they're going somewhere else to create the jobs. New York is a big exit sign. People, leaders there, people that develop things, entrepreneurs, people that hire people have left New York because they're tired of this ridiculous tax rates and the government, the regulations and everything else that New York slams down your throat, being led by Commissar Blasio and company. It's just absolutely this communism type philosophy where government's everything. All money belongs to the government, and they're going to dish out a little bit of it to you peasants. So, you can eat that fish that we're going to give you today, and vote for us. Otherwise, your food checks are going to stop. Your welfare is going to stop. And what did Obama do? He gets elected. The one good thing that came out of the Clinton administration wasn't really his administration that did it. It was Newt Gingrich's Reform Act, whatever that was that he had there. And on that was welfare reform. Well, Clinton fought it and fought it and fought it and fought it. Well, pretty soon, because he was such a poor president that he lost control of the House and the Senate. And as a result, he got himself into a corner. And eventually they played their cards right. And Clinton had to sign on to this welfare reform. What that did was you had so much welfare you could get, and that was all she wrote. Then you had no choice but get off the couch, turn off Oprah, and go out and get a job or some way to support yourself. Well, what happened was the people got off the couch, turned off Oprah, went out and actually got jobs and stuff and found ways to support themselves. After they did that for a certain amount of time, they went, wow, I can do this. How about this? So I guess enough of these people started to see reality set in, and maybe they started changing the way that they voted from liberal to conservative. Well, Jesus Christ, when Obama gets in there, what does he do right away? He overturns that law. He overturns it and gives everybody back on welfare. I mean, good God, this guy hasn't done one friggin' thing that a normal common sense person could ever explain. He's 180 degrees wrong, the wrong direction on everything. That's what this guy does. He's a monster. He's an absolute monster. The worst president this country has ever had. We're going to have to really, really work hard to find a worse president than him. And believe you me, we don't want him. Take Hillary Clinton. She's not doing too well because believe you me, after 8 years of Obama, we can't stand anymore. But what the mainstream media will do, if Trump gets in there, they're going to go after him and after him and after him on a daily basis. And after 4 or 8 years of this devastation of tax, the people, the 47%, are going to lose their minds again, going to lose their common sense, and things go round and around. So they'll probably vote in some other idiot 8 years from now, which will be a shame because now all the mistakes that Obama's made, that probably Trump can wipe a lot of them out. We can get back on track to be great again. Hopefully we'll be there. But then what happens when the next devastation comes? Because the problem is the 47% of the people aren't going to realize, hey, we've had 8 years of prosperity here. Why? You know, if they listen at all to the media, they're not going to get the right story. So they have to look. They got to get the cobwebs out of their heads. And they have to look and they have to see what caused this. What was the reason for this prosperity? Well, it was conservative policies where we have less government, less regulations, less intrusion on business people that create jobs. We need to get the people working again. And the government can't do it. All the government does is hand out money to bureaucrats that are the most inefficient things in the world. They don't know how to run anything. And their whole mantra, the way they do their business, is their jobs, is they spend whatever budget they have. And they make sure that they spend all the money. They don't run on an efficiency level to where if they save money, the department heads get a reward. No, as long as they spend all the money, then they get more the following budget. So that's the way the government runs. If any business ran like that, they'd go broke in a heartbeat and they wouldn't make it. The other thing I like to point out is that with this two-party system, we can call that a for and against, because if one party comes up for something, the other party's going to oppose it, and vice versa. That's just the way it is with a two-party system. And why we run our government this way is foolish. We need to stop it. We need to elect our officials by name only and not party affiliation, and let the people say what they're going to do. Take away the opportunity of that little envelope they get at their first luncheon in Washington, and start working for the people that elected them, because the only way they're going to continue in the job is if the people re-elect them. And it's not a matter of what you do for this guy and that guy to raise you money so you can go and buy television times and ads and whatnot to be re-elected in the next cycle. No, you have to do your job. You have to do something for the American people that elected you, and then maybe you'll get re-elected. That's the way this system, this country was founded on, and that's what we need to get back to. This is not rocket science. We need to do this. We must do this, or our country's gone. I grew up in Cleaver Beaver's days, you know, Beaver Cleaver, whatever his name was, and we had usually a lady in the home, the mother, baking her cookies and doing whatever they do. No offense, but that's the way it used to be. And the man would be the worker. He'd get a job and he'd take care of the family. And they had enough left over at the end of the day to take a vacation now and then, to put their kids through school, secondary education, college. And for my generation anyways, we were always left off better than the last generation. We'd leave our kids better off. Now that's not happening. This is the first time since we've elected this biracial president that we are leaving our children worse off than before. Now, I don't say that it has anything to do with him being biracial. What it has to do with is he's a communist. He's a Muslim communist. He comes from the East someplace. That's where he was raised. That's where he went to school. Irregardless of what these college records don't show, because they're all hidden, but I'm sure that someday it'll come out that he used the old trickery that he was a foreign exchange student to get into all these Ivy League schools without any money. Kind of like an affirmative action type thing for college. This is what they do. They're sneaky bastards. And that's why he shows up in the newspapers of Honolulu as having been born on the particular day, even if that was when he was born, because I don't think he was really born in Hawaii. I don't fall for Bill O'Reilly's reasoning that, oh, it's in the newspaper. Oh, that means everything, Bill. Well, no one would have thought to put that in the newspaper because he was going to be president someday. No, maybe they put it in the newspaper because it would be advantageous to crooks and people that played the system to have him born in multiple places. Maybe he could be a citizen of the U.S., a citizen of Kenya, things like that. Maybe that was the reason. It wasn't because someday he'll be president. I'm not saying anybody in his family was smart enough to figure that out. And who would? If we had this to do over again, I think that guy would get fewer votes than anybody in history. If you could look at his record of what he's done in the last 8 years, I don't know how he got elected for the second term. It boggles my mind. I have no idea. That just absolutely, I want to count the ballots again. That was a fixed job if there ever was one. But we have a lot of things to do in this country. And we have to go, unfortunately, it's a lot of work, but how we do it can be done. We need to go grassroots. We need to go community to community, get an organization going locally that looks at our local officials, gets rid of the mud, put some people in there with something between their heads, or nobody. What is the problem if we don't have all this government? What's the problem? Oh, I'm going to shut down the government. Good. Shut it down. What the hell's going to happen? Nothing. We don't need all this government. So on a local basis, let's start operating efficiently. Let's get our leaders that can think and do things. We've got a guy named Cliven Bundy who's a resident here in Nevada. His family's been ranching land north of here for centuries, and he's sitting in jail. And the reasoning behind that, of course, is a phony reason because it's coming from the government. But the reasoning, here's the real reason, because Harry Reid has put heat on the U.S. court system to throw him in jail and not let him out because Rory and Harry Reid want the land surrounding Bundy there so they can give it to the communist Chinese so they can get some kind of a kickback on a solar plant or something up there. That's the truth. But what's being said by the court is, and this judge, Navarro, that, Bundy has a history of not following orders of the court in the past, so he may not follow orders in the future. So that's why we have to keep him in court, because he may not follow my order. Well, sorry, Judge. Sometimes orders are illegal orders. They're not constitutional. This judiciary around this country gets a grade of F from an organization in Washington, D.C. that grades courts and how they do, state by state. And they come out yearly with a report card. And the report that Nevada gets is a big solid F. Terrible. And that means it's totally corrupt. Nevada elects their judges, which opens up a huge door for corruption because they have to raise campaign contributions to be able to pay for their signs and so forth, their ads, when it comes election time. That's a big ass, wake up, we cannot have this. Originally, our founding fathers warned us against making the judgeships political. And we started out with appointments for all the judges. And then because money makes money, does money follow the money, they ended up having the judges elected. And then that gets campaign contributions going and campaign managers and God knows what else. and you make it a money deal. He who gets elected has the most money, and that buys corruption and gets the powers to be the judges on the bench, so they can rest assured that they're going to get all favorable rulings. And it's just a distorted, corrupt system that doesn't get justice. It gets the opposite of justice. And we, the people, have allowed this to happen to us here in Nevada. We were where we appointed judges. Now we are to where we elect judges. It simply doesn't work because people become corrupt. Judges become corrupt. Lawyers become corrupt. So we have to stop this. We have to stop it. And I'm going to do what I can do to get that word out there that this whole process of the way judges are determined in this state needs to change. It's absolutely broken. And part of that is this Navarro decision to keep Bundy in jail because he may not follow a future order. Well, Bundy, from what I understand, he actually paid rent for his land. He paid it to the sheriff of Clark County because it's state land, it's not federal land. And the sheriff didn't want to get mixed up in the middle of a deal. So I don't know if he turned the money over to the feds or not or whatever. But of course, when you're up against courts and judges and lawyers and so forth, they lie, folks. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but they lie. If you have an opportunity and you're a lawyer to tell the truth or do a lie, they have a propensity 99% of the time to take the lie, because that muddies up the waters of the whole court system, and that's what they want. They want mud, because they bill by the hour, by the minute, by the second, whatever it is, and the muddier, more complicated they can make a deal, the more billing hours they're going to get out of it. Now, that's only good for so long. When they run out of money from their clients, they stop. That's it, case over. Let whatever happens happen. That's it. We're done with this one. Next. And anyone with money out there, then they go on to their next client that still has money in their pocket. And when they get all that, they're done with that client and he can go home because he's through. You don't get justice in this country anymore. You get sold out. That's what you get. You get sold out. And they're absolute crooks. They're criminals. They're worse than any bank robber because they're doing this under the power of some sort of authority. And this is what we have to change. We can't have people running around with black robes stealing people's money with a click of a hammer. You know, these judges are they're just despicable. They've been bought and paid for by these lawyers who need to contribute to their campaigns so they get a chance of a good ruling that they can turn around and make money on. It's a pathetic, pathetic system. Why it's so difficult for voters to understand this concept is just beyond me. Of course, you got that 47% out there that'll never understand anything, and that's the problem. Our country's been dumbed down, and I hope that we can correct all this crap that's going on prior to us falling off the cliff like Greece and other places, because that's what's going to happen. We're going to fall off a cliff. We're going to create tremendous problems and hardship. You think there's homeless people on the streets now? Wait till these policies catch up to us, of these progressives and illegitimate courts, people that steal money. It's absolutely, it's just beyond me. It's beyond me. I have a case that I've been hopping on for quite a while now. It's ridiculous, really, but you know, it shows exactly what it is. Because when you take on the court system, you ever hear the expression, you're fighting City Hall, you're not going to win. But everybody's been losing at this game for so long, and what happens to 99.99999% of these litigants that get these despicable wrong rulings? They don't have the money at a certain point to fight it anymore. So they have no choice but to give up. The system breaks them. They get all the money from you and you're done. You have no way of fighting them. Well, I'm not in that position. And I'm going to fight them. I'm not quitting until we get the law upheld in my particular situation. Now, what's happened is the courts have had so much rope, so much latitude that they could virtually get away with anything. for decades now. Anything that they do, nobody holds them accountable for. Well, they're so used to this system to where they just can create whatever havoc they want to create. They never have to pay the price. Those days are numbered. And when you lose one, you're going to start losing a lot. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing, because that's going to help this country save itself. And you can't have lawyers and judges just stealing people's money left and right for long, because it's going to stop. It's going to stop. Now, what this judge and what this court system did, it absolutely stole money. This is not complicated. They try to make it complicated. They try to muddy the waters. They avoid the answering the tough questions. And the tough question is, what is the law of the land? They have to answer that a different way, because everybody kind of knows what the law of the land is. It's black and white. It's been the way since this country was founded, really, in this particular case. For example, if you have property in one state, no judge in another state can lay claim to that property without going through the proper procedure. And the proper procedure is, when you're talking about real assets, is that a court in the state where the assets are located has exclusive jurisdiction over those assets, period. No other court can intercede with that. And don't let these lawyers and stuff muddy the waters by saying, oh, well, the full faith and credit, long-arm statute and all that crap, where any ruling from one state has to be upheld in another state. Well, that's mostly referring to money judgments that have to be domesticated in whatever state you're trying to get the ruling upheld in. So it's not as simple as, well, Nevada made a ruling, so we have to honor it. No, that's not true. And one of the reasons it's not true, when you're talking about real property, only the state where the real property is situated can control that particular title to that property. Period. Period, period, period. End of case. Okay? You can't do that. So anyways, then the other issue is trusts. Trusts, all states have their own trusts law. Like Nevada's supposedly one of the best laws, and maybe it is. I've read the law. It's not bad. It's pretty good when you compare it to other states. But the big difference is in Nevada compared to some other states, hopefully, is that Nevada has absolutely no judiciary that you can depend upon. You have zero. The judiciary in this state is broken. So even if you have a trust, if you have money sitting in a bank, the judge can just take it. He just takes it. Sorry, you lose your money. Well, wait a minute, you can't do that. Okay, well, maybe there's laws against that. Maybe you can't do it. But after the judge with his back robe does it, what the hell are you going to do? What the hell are you going to do? Your money's gone. A bank has allowed a judge to take your money because he's a judge. Well, so what? He's a judge. You never heard of Judge Bell, the hanging judge? I mean, judges make mistakes. Judges get overturned all the time. If you want to start doing some reading, get online and look at some decisions in court cases. You'll find out that often, if the case doesn't make any sense to you, look to the next step to see if this case was appealed. You'll probably find out that it was, and lo and behold, guess what? It was overturned. Because these judges make mistakes all the time. They're actually pathetic. Their record is pathetic because they're not competent. These judges get, I don't know, close to $200,000 a year, and they never make it in private practice because they could never make that kind of money for sitting around acting like you're some kind of King Kong. All rise. I mean, you know, that it goes right to their heads, and they think they walk on water. I've had judges in this district court here in Nevada tell me that any ruling they make as to jurisdiction is a rule of law. Hello? An 8th grade student knows better than that. What are you talking about? There's laws in this land, and you have to uphold them. You don't make them from your bench. You're not the legislature. You're not Congress. By the way, you have to uphold the laws. You're bound to uphold laws. We have a doctrine in this country called stare decisis. And if there's been a ruling made from a court, it becomes a precedent. And then other courts are supposed to pay attention, either persuasively or binding if it's a higher court, to where they have to follow that other court's ruling. Or why would you not want to? Because the economic of judicial determinations, why would you want to hear a case, go through all this stuff, when it's already been decided before a case with similar circumstances? You just rule the way it's been ruled before. And until that ruling is determined to be wrong for whatever reason, and it gets overturned, that's the way you should rule. And that's simple, but it's, the whole system, the whole legal system, that's too simple for them, because remember, they want to muddy the waters. They want billing hours. They want to make sure that as long as their clients have money, that the case goes on. And how many of you have heard that? The case is never over until they run out of money. Then it's over. Until it's out of money, it's never over. Well, you're dealing with a system that is demanding that it be revamped. Now, in my particular case, this Judge Alan Earl, I've been saying his name, makes a ruling dictating that property held in trust, an estate trust, spendthrift trust, that was created and governed under the laws of New Hampshire, a home situated there in New Hampshire for 50 years, my family's owned that home. And this Judge Earl, this despicable, incompetent, I think demented judge, makes a ruling to sell that home. Why? Why? Oh, to pay lawyers that practice in his court. Because he used to be a lawyer. He gave this little speech one day that he used to be a lawyer. I'm not that far removed from those chairs over there. Now that I'm sitting on this big nice bench, all rise, I used to be over there. So no lawyer's going to work in my court pro bono, meaning for free. Oh, okay, Judge, so now you're in the collection department, you're what? You're all things to all people. If your people are people that contribute to your campaign, that is. So it's despicable, just absolutely criminals is what this judge did. So he dictates through an order that property in New Hampshire, 3,000 miles away, be sold. He does not have jurisdiction to do that, period. Period, period, period. Judges and lawyers, they knew this back in the early 1800s. Our legal system really came to pass about 1776. Well, in 1811, there was a case called Livingston versus Jefferson, as in our third president, Thomas Jefferson, where a guy named Livingston had some property in Louisiana, and Jefferson did something on it or with it or whatever, tried to steal it, who knows what. Well, Livingston ended up suing Jefferson. And because Jefferson lived in Virginia, I guess, he sued him in Virginia. Well, a judge named Marshall, that I think went on to be bigger things, maybe a U.S. Supreme Court justice, I think. But anyway, he rules, the judge said, wait a minute, hold on here. This case is being heard in Virginia and the property's in Louisiana. The subject matter property's in Louisiana. The thing is in Louisiana. Uh-oh. Well, we can't do anything about that in Virginia because we don't have jurisdiction. So a case was thrown out. If you're going to file a case anywhere, you have to file it where the particular property is. That's now referred to in jurisprudence as the local action doctrine. It's been around since 1811, and it's not going anywhere. As a matter of fact, the Ninth Circuit here in California, which oversees Nevada, made a ruling in the elderly properties versus DirecTV back in 2014, made a ruling concerning a case that was filed in California over property that was owned by DirecTV in Connecticut. Well, the Ninth Circuit got the case under appeal in Nevada, in California, and said, well, let's see, where is this subject matter of this property? Where is this property? It's in Connecticut. Oops. All right, well, we don't have jurisdiction, and the court didn't, the district court, so overruled, well, upheld actually, because that's the way the first court ruled, that they didn't have jurisdiction. at any rate, if this case is going to be filed anywhere, it has to be filed in Connecticut, not California. So there you go. Waste of time, all the effort, all the time that went into that case, all the payment of legal fees and this and that and back and forth, all just money that went to the court system, so the court doesn't give a damn. You know, well, look at that. All those lawyers got all this money now. They can contribute to our campaigns and keep the devastation going. But what about what happened to the litigants, especially the ones that were right? What happens to them? They've been tagged millions of dollars in fees they never should have had to pay, had money ripped right out from underneath them. And this is our judiciary. This is called justice. Not in my book, it's not. It's called thievery. And what Judge Earl did by dictating that a home be sold in New Hampshire is absolutely pathetic. But it gets worse. This judge couldn't do what he did. And I knew he couldn't do it. He was told he couldn't do it. The last day in court, in closing arguments, he was told specifically when a lawyer was asked if they thought that the judge had authority to sell property in New Hampshire, the lawyer said absolutely not, and that's by the Constitution of the United States. It's one of the first few times that particular lawyer, had ever been right on anything that was said in court. But it didn't matter because the judge completely ignored it and ruled opposite to it and thought that he could dictate that the home in New Hampshire be sold. Anyways, he orders not only that the home be sold, but the losing defense attorney who lost the case and doesn't have any right for any fees from the winner, the people that own the property in New Hampshire. They don't have to pay any fees because the trustee was stealing money. I mean, what kind of deal is that? You get to rob a bank and the bank robber gets to keep the money, or the lawyer gets the money from the theft? I don't think so. But anyways, so I go and I sell a home. I'm protecting the trust. That's my job as trustee now. I protect the trust, protect the assets, and I have to protect those assets from anybody, including courts, because courts do not have any authority. I'm sorry, Mr. Black Robe Judge. I know you're God, but you do not have authority to make any ruling concerning the disposition of trust assets that are held in a spendthrift trust. And the reason for that is a technicality that you can't get around. Nobody owns anything. You understand that? A spendthrift trust, everything is held in anticipation or expectancy that someday, by the terms of the trust, beneficiaries named in the document may actually get something. Well, you can't do anything about that until they get it. It's like you can't award somebody money from a lottery until they win it. Is that comprehensible by you, you demented judge? Anybody understand that? You don't have authority to award something from something that somebody hasn't gotten yet. Period. Try to follow along. I know this is too easy for you. God, it gets me riled up. Anyways, this judge makes a ruling that's what they call void. It's void because the United States Supreme Court had said exactly that no state has jurisdiction over any assets held in another state, period. And more so, more specific to my particular case, there was a case between Florida and Delaware where Florida was trying to seize control of trust assets from Delaware that actually were stock. And the Florida court wanted that stock in Florida so they could probate it and get their pound of flesh, whatever their percentage was. So the Supreme Court weighed in and said, wait a minute, these trust assets are in Delaware, so Florida didn't have any subject matter jurisdiction. Sorry about that. So anyways, that case was decided very specifically on the fact that any state cannot control assets, and specifically trust assets, in another state. Well, this Nevada judge, demented Judge Earl, put out there that Nevada was going to control assets in New Hampshire, sell a home, get the money, and pay lawyers in Nevada so they could turn around and contribute to the campaigns of judges. Well, I stopped that by selling the house before that despicable defense lawyer could have anything to do with it. And I got the money, and the judge out here and the lawyers were all going crazy that they couldn't see how they were going to steal our money at that point. And but they were going to try. They were going to try to overturn the sale. They were going to try an FBI investigation. They were going to subpoena everybody. They were going to wrestle the bushes and try to overturn the sale and do all this stuff. Just for what purpose? For the sole purpose that they could get the money and give it to lawyers. That's it. That's all they were after. Get the money, give it to lawyers. Well, I went, explained the situation to my bank, and my banker, branch manager, said, well, I said, give me cash. I'm just going to hold on to the cash, and these people out in Nevada, whenever they come to their senses, or I make them come to their senses through an appeal, then we'll just buy another house, and that'll be that. So he said, well, I don't know why you want to walk around with $1.5 million. That's kind of dangerous. Why don't you just get a cashier's check, and that's as good as cash, and whenever you want us to return the cash to you, we will. And you can buy your other house or whatever. Well, okay, so that's what we did. I have a cashier's check. And what does Judge Earl do about that? Well, they try every trick in the book. They try restraining orders. They try enjoinments. They try all this stuff trying to induce the bank to stop payment on a cashier's check. Now, when you interfere with a bank commitment, a national bank that's insured by the FDIC, that's a criminal act because you can't interfere with a bank's commitment. You can't submit fraudulent documents to the bank. These are all Class A felonies, very, very serious crimes. And finally, the judge and the lawyers and the bank come to some kind of an arrangement. I guess the bank got paid off, I'm sure, because otherwise, why in the hell would they ever do this? They decide that if this judge signs an order saying that the cashier's check is lost, destroyed, or stolen, that they'll go ahead and reissue another check to Navarro out here. And so this judge, this demented judge, signs an order dictating that the losing defense attorney sign an affidavit saying that the check was in his possession when he lost it, and that the money needs to be returned to Navarro. Well, the problem with that is the check was never in the hands of that losing defense attorney. It was never even in Nevada, so it can't ever be returned to Nevada because the money was never here in Nevada. So it's a completely fraudulent bank fraud document. Under 18 U.S.C. 1344, it's bank fraud, Judge. You've committed a Class A felony, bank fraud. And that's the kind of judge you are. You're pathetic. And but this is what you end up with. Now you have devastation because the bank actually sent the money out here. Well, how can you do that? You can't, but they did it. But now you have to undo it. So how many years, how much action, how much money, how much time and effort is it going to take you to do this? Well, you know, there's laws that the bank has to follow too. And the bank couldn't do this because you can't have a cashier's check that's not worth the paper it's written on, because that makes cashier's checks completely worthless. So why do you have a cashier's check? Do away with them, burn them all, forget it. It's not worth a damn thing, because what a bank check is supposed to be is a guarantee from the bank that that check is on them, that they have to pay it, and it will be paid. And that's what a cashier's check is. It's as good as cash. They're accepted all over this country, all over the world, that when you go to close a multi-million-dollar deal, for example, you don't have to show up with a train full of cash or 55-foot tractor trailers to be able to close the deal. You show up with a cashier's check. A cashier's check can be written for any amount of money, $2 billion, $4 billion, whatever it is. It can be all written for that, and then that closes the deal. You get the deed, whatever you're buying, the people that sold it to you get the check, and everything's happy. That's it, done. But everybody knows that that cashier's check represents cash. Now we have a bank, People's United Bank, out of Bridgeport, Connecticut, that decides that it's to their advantage to stop payment on a cashier's check. Now, how would it ever be to their advantage to do this? Can they explain that to their stockholders, why they did this? Why in the world would they ever stop payment on a cashier's check? It goes against every bank principle there is. There used to be a guy named Willie Sutton. He's a famous bank robber. Somebody asked him once, why do you rob banks? And he reiterated, because that's where the money is. Well, it used to be there. Now it appears that all the bank officers have stolen the money. I mean, how can a bank do that? They interrupt the business of commerce throughout the country. No deals can close now because one bank, one national bank, FDIC insured, stops payment on their own cashier's check. That can't be done, period. It can't be done. But look at the devastation that this demented Judge Earl has caused. Now, somehow, this bank went along with this. They obviously got a payoff of some sort that they're going to have to answer to. But at the end of the day, one thing is for sure, the cashier's check's going to have to be paid. It better be paid, or there's no banks left in this country. This is the type of stuff people have to realize. You just don't get to do something because some judge says so. Judges are as infallible as anything, maybe more so. All rise. Their head gets distorted shortly after they take the bench. They think they're this mini little lord in a black robe. You know, you need to know what you're doing or you have no integrity. And you've lost the integrity of the state of Nevada. And this bank, People's United Bank in Bridgeport, Connecticut, has lost the integrity of a bank. All because of this one thing. Pathetic, pathetic. Well, anyways, I'm going to make sure that this word gets out there of what transpired here because it's so black and white. This is probably one of the most clearest examples of corruption and the despicabiliness of courts, the lack of integrity, and of a bank. I mean, most banks don't do this. I talked to a bank in New Hampshire, president of a bank. He told me he has never heard, he's been a banker for 30 years. He's never heard of a bank in New Hampshire stopping payment on a cashier's check. Lucky me. Why am I so lucky? I'm the only one that stuff like this happens to, you know? And it's absolutely pathetic. Well, anyways, that's the show for today. I thought I'd warn you people out there that there's so much stuff going on in this country that's upside down. This whole country is becoming upside down. And we need to do something to get it straightened out. Well, we're all in trouble. This country is definitely going the wrong direction. And we need, as the people, we the people of this country, have to do something. And when we see things like this doesn't just affect me. This affects the entire banking industry in the United States and around the world, really. I mean, I don't have delusions of grandeur, but this is what happens. If you don't have the integrity of a bank, will you give the money to a bank and you buy a cashier's check? Are you taking the risk that that cashier's check won't be any good? Why the hell would you ever buy it? Why the Christ would you buy it? Like buying a gold bar. Why would you buy a gold bar if it wasn't going to be, you know? This is crazy. Anyways, I'm going to make sure everybody knows about it. I'm going to go on a big campaign and we're going to get this word out there and we'll see where this goes. In the meantime, the bank is racking up damages and so forth. And they're going to have to come after Nevada to get mitigated on those damages. And the taxpayers of the state of Nevada may be on the hook. May be on the hook. And there's a specious, despicable snake of an attorney back in New Hampshire named Mark Derby that works for Cleveland Waters and Bass. That's the firm that made my mother's trust. And these people go after and work against the bank, trying to induce the bank to send trust money to Nevada. And they're a New Hampshire trust firm. I mean, the despicability of everybody is just over the top. It's unbelievable. Does anybody in this country follow the law or do their jobs anymore? How can a bank just ignore the laws? There is no law. This country is broken.